So, first off, we gotta take care of the front, the clickbait, the thing I got you to click on this for, my theory. So, real quick, I think I know what is happening with all these UFO sightings in 2024, and this is gonna go into the beyond with 2025. Let me just first show you my screen here with my browser. So, I have a theory, I have a hypothesis, alright? And this is a hypothesis, all right? I'm not saying this is the only possibility, but I think this is it. Are you ready for it? Are you ready for it? All right, that was the hook. Thanks for coming. Have a good day. Well, basically, for the last 50 years, this has been going on, right? So maybe 1950s or so. And I think there's reason to suggest that it's ramped up quite significantly since 2020. Now there's a lot of theories as to why that is. However, there is one hypothesis that explains all this quite interestingly enough. Nobody's considered it. And all of the videos I've seen and all the content I've consumed recently of this topic, no one's considered it. However, it is very dangerous talking about this concept, this hypothesis. It's not my hypothesis essentially, but it's my hypothesis for what's happening, but it's not my idea originally. On the internet, it's very much frowned upon if you use the words the wrong way, or you say it the wrong way and say, hey, I think this is what's happening, you can get your channel deleted. Not saying that that's proof that it's true, but it's one of those things that CensorTube and other big companies don't want you talking about very much. And that is Project Laser, that is the opposite of yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and type it into the thing here, and then maybe I can zoom in here so that you can see. Hopefully this won't be an offense, violating the communist guidelines, but she is a scarlet horse, so I mean a beautiful lady, so why wouldn't you violate her consensually? So let's go ahead and zoom in here. To can we zoom in so we can see that? So this, mind you, explains everything. Now the thing is, they don't need lasers the opposite of the color yellow shooting in the sky. And I'm thinking that probably turned out to be too expensive, so they pivoted to what was recently invented or released to the public after being invented for the CIA maybe 100 years ago, who knows, 50 years ago or whatever. The drone technology has been normalized, okay? So drone technology has been normalized and has been released, and so we're used to seeing drones for sure, but we're much more used to seeing UFOs. And I think perhaps some of the UFOs in antiquity, the older ones from the 60s and 70s, might have been actual drone technology, the CIA. You see, they've been planting this idea in our heads for 50 years. I'm not saying this is for sure, I'm saying this is the hypothesis. It's called normalization, okay? It's the process of normalizing something to where people are used to it. And it's also one of the first steps of active measures, all right? That is a whole nother thing, active measures. So basically, what has been happening over the past 50 years, and has been ramping up especially since 2020, is the normalization of, and I've done content series about active measures before on some of my other channels, so I'm actually kind of I wouldn't say not necessarily an expert, but I'm definitely well versed in the basics of active measures. You start with normalization, and then you go to it starts with introduction. It's introduction, normalization, That I didn't say PlayStation. Uh, that's kind of weird. It's like saying milk and Alexa turns on. Introduction, normalization, demoralization, destabilization. Now it's trying to log me out of my account. Um, and crisis. I think there's. Let's see if I can find my video on it. Uh, fuck. But there's basically those five. Normalization, introduction, where you introduce the thing, and this is a Soviet and Chinese basically social engineering and introduction of communism, where it's called active measures, where they introduce a thing, right? Then they normalize the thing, then they demoralize the normal culture, and then they demoralize, destabilize, and cause riots and stuff, and then leads to crisis. Okay, so this is the communist playbook: how to overthrow. It's also Sun Tzu, so it's very Chinese. How to overthrow a country. Sun Tzu, from within, and the thing is, you can also use active measures when you want to do a psyop. And there's been many psyops. And basically, we're just going from one psyop to the next psyop. If you were born yesterday, you probably thought the only psyop you lived through was 2020 apocalypse. Okay? So you probably know all about the 2020 apocalypse, right? But you don't know about all the other psyops. So let's see if we can. I'm very slow at doing this, so just bear with me, please. This is not my usual way of doing things, so we go here, we click on this, and I can't edit because I just don't have the technology. I can't cut this down. I don't have the time or the technology. I have to get this out. Basically, if we go here, we look at there we go, 2020, the movie. So if you don't know, if you were born literally yesterday and you don't know what happened in 2020, the 2020 the movie, aka Conflam episode 5, will explain it to you and simplify and basically help you out, help you understand what more or less what exactly happened in 2020 the movie. I mean, it's a bit of an oversimplification, but it's a psyop. What happened was a psyop. Do not let them gaslight you anymore. Do not let them constantly lie to you, deceive you, and just constantly oh, it's just a quinky dink. Everything's a quinky dink. Oh, look, there's a bug. It jumped out of an anus of a bat. Oh, look, a penguin and an anus each other. Oh, look, now we got this deadly pandemic. Oh, it's not as deadly as we thought it was, but don't worry, here's the cure. Oh, it turns out the cure is worse than the disease. Oh, it's okay. It's flu shot season, everybody. Basically, you go back, and in 2015 there was a psyop, somewhere around there. In 2008 there was a psyop. In 2011, there was a psyop. I'm not going to name which psyops are at these numbers. Maybe you can do a little bit of research. There was a psyop right before there were several psyops in like the Vietnam and the South Korea Soviet Cold War periods, I do believe. And there was a psyop to get into the World War, something about a harbor with pearls in it. And there was the pigs killing, and there has been a lot of psyops, and many of them have been confirmed. Most of them have been confirmed by the CIA of being psyops meant to deceive people, false flags. Okay, so it's a normal thing. It happens a lot. They do this. They get more power every time they do it. They get more power and money. Yes, it is just about power, money, and control. It doesn't have to be about much more than that. Power, money, and control is a lot right there. And basically, what has happened is every new psyop, they gain so much more power for the government, so much more control, so much more money. You know, billionaires. Look at all the billionaires who are the top, the richest billionaires of the perceived market value. 10 years ago, they weren't hundreds of billionaires, but because of these psyops, because of the jib jabs and the pokey wokies and these other fixes to these psyops, right? The cures, these people are getting, like, Mr. Yates, half of his net worth comes from jib jabs, the old school ones given to Africa against their free will. I mean, your kids, we don't have permission from the parents to give the kids these jib jabs, but we're going to do it anyways for science. Oh, look at that. The main side effect? What's the main side effect of the jib jab? What's the main side effect? There's a lot of little bad ones, like maybe AUTSIM, but there's a lot of them. But one of the side effects turns out to be the main side effect for all jib jabs and the pokey wokey: instantaneous unlifing. Okay? So, millions in Africa, and now with the pokey wokey, the new one, the M&M with the RNA, you know what I'm talking about. With the new ones, we have even more of the main side effect. Okay, so these things have been happening for hundreds of years, and these psyops have continually been rolled out, and every time the normie falls for it, every single time, they never learn. They never teach their kids. They always make the exact same mistakes as their grandparents. But when we go back to the topic of normalization, I want to ask you something. Did your grandparents know about UFOs? And how of their grandparents, of your grandparents who knew about UFOs, how many of their grandparents knew about UFOs? All right? Did I prove my point? You've been normalized. You've been normalized to drones, yes, but you've also been normalized to UFOs, to UFO sightings, and UFO stories. And I'm not saying that UFOs aren't UFOs or aliens don't exist necessarily, hypotheoretically, somehow demons or aliens or extraterrestrials. I don't care. The point is you're normalized to it. The government has been releasing, and every whistleblower who writes a book is allowed to say everything that they said. The United States government lets them say everything. That's why they write their books. They make sure they say only the things they're allowed to say. It is a controlled leak. The government is normalizing use of UFOs. And recently in 24, and I predict in the future in 25, it's going to ramp up significantly. Now, what does this have to do with Project the opposite of the color yellow, laser sky? All right? I can't say it out loud because I want to post this on CommuTube. Okay, Project the opposite of yellow, laser sky. All right? This is a story about a conspiracy where people were planning to do this to people, to bring about more power, control, money, and oversight, big government stuff, basically. And the idea is to use lasers to create holographic UFOs to convince people that they're being invaded by aliens, and then after that normalization, they fix the problem by saying, we're going to nuke them. Oh, wait, we're not going to nuke them. Oh, we made a deal with the aliens. Now you've got to have your mind wiped and go into the new society. That's a story. I'm not saying it's 100% what is happening, but it's a good hypothesis starting point. Mind you, I think the lasers that are opposite of the color yellow turned out to be too expensive, and there's so much cheap drone technology ever since the CIA gave us, in the early 2000s or the mid 2000s. They're like, okay, now you can have the technology we've probably had for. I mean, how is that technology taken 100 years to make? There were those little toys like 50 years ago that worked just fine, and it took 50 years to make proper quadcopters. I don't believe it. I think it was 50 years until we were allowed to have them or allowed to use that technology. They probably had those, maybe special forces or somebody had that technology. I don't know. Maybe they just got to get the propeller right, and then all of a sudden it's not a toy, or cameras got to get small enough. But we've had small cameras for a long time too. So Doesn't make any sense. That being said, I think what's happening is we're being normalized to the concept of UFOs and aliens and also drones and other possibilities. What the government does is the government leaks 15 different stories, and each story is false to cloak the one true story might coming out. So, what I think hypothetically, and this is just a hypothesis, I'm about 38 to 74% sure about this hypothesis, but if it is true, you're going to see more and more and more stories about UFOs, drone sightings, and everything else. And then there'll be a point where people in the government and the mainstream media and everyone else start saying, oh, we think this is really happening. And it may not be aliens necessarily. It might just be, oh, China has UFO technology, or it might be extraterrestrial demons. Who knows what they say? But the idea is to normalize us to seeing UFOs, getting used to it. Then they finally come out in 2025 or 2028, whenever it is, and they say, okay, this is what happens. This is what's happening. We don't want you to panic. We didn't tell you before, but it turns out there's aliens, and they want something or another. But what we're going to do is we're going to strike a deal with them, and we're your elites, and we're your good guys, and we're going to make sure the deal is really good for you. You just got to give us more money, power, fame, and control. And that's the jix. That's the main thing about Project the Opposite of the Color Yellow Laser Sky. Is it, even though it's talking about holograms and stuff, I don't think they need that technology because drone technology exists. And this idea came up in the 50s after a Star Trek episode that was similar. Mind you, I think that's retarded to think it was just the Star Trek episode that inspired the idea, because ideas are often in several places simultaneously, in independent and original, like people will get the similar idea in 15 different places all at once. I don't think that, and plus the Star Trek episode is a simple concept, right? And this is a way more fleshed out. It could be one inspires the other, or even one is the fall guy for the other. Like, so Stargate episode 200 is a joke about how Stargate, the TV show, could be a cover for a program in the government about Stargates. Because in the episode, or maybe it's not episode 200, but it's one of those episodes around 200. In the episode, there's a guy who is an alien from another planet, and he makes a TV show about his actual real-life experiences, but he forgot to a degree because his alien brothers, who they're all humans, but they're alien human, right, mind wipe him. Basically, there's a TV show with one episode, a cover for the in-canon Stargate project in the Stargate TV show universe. So if you can wrap your head around that, in other words, with a wink and a nod, Brad Wright and the other guys are saying, hey, what if, maybe this didn't even cross their mind, but I would call bullshit on that. What if Stargate, the TV show, was in fact a cover story for a real thing? And it turns out, ironically enough, there is a Stargate project that came before the TV show about remote viewing from the CIA. So, interesting how that works. So basically, fiction is meant to be ancillary to help out the government's official story cover. So in the Wire Files video about Project the Opposite of the Color Yellow Laser Sky, he carefully explains to you the story about this is Wire Files. So the thing about the thing, what this project is about. So I would go check that out. Wire Files, Alien Attack of Project Bluebeam. That might have been it, or it might have been a newer one. I think this one was removed and he re-released it in 2024. But so I'm not the first or the only person probably thinking this, that they're ramping it up for Project Bluebeam. But like I said, they don't need lasers. Shit, I said it. fuck. They don't need lasers. They don't need lasers. They could just have drones. And the idea is, maybe, just maybe, I'm not saying that we're going to be real extraterrestrials. What I'm saying is, maybe, if they can get away with it, they'll create an idea, another mass psychosis like in 2020. They'll have a story, an official narrative, and they'll say, okay, there's 4 extraterrestrials. They came from planet Zoop-Blop. We're telling you the truth this time for sure. We promise we're the CIA. We never lie. And they'll say, okay, they're warning us about another alien species coming to attack us. And all those drone sightings that you saw might have just been aliens. And now everyone will think back to all the times they saw the drone sights, and they'll say, okay, for sure, CNN is telling the truth this time for reals. And basically, then they'll say, okay, we declare it's a national emergency. We got to merge governments together, consolidate some power. It's just the next psyop. So don't believe anything from the government for the most part for the next entire rest of your life, because they've been doing this. And they've been doing this so many times in just my life. There was 2020. There was something in around 2015, I think. And I can't really talk about it. So there was 2008 and there was 2003. You didn't know that? Well, you didn't live in Asia. Maybe you should have lived in Asia in 2003. And then there was just dropping these numbers. Might get this whole piece of content deleted, if not saying that this phrase I accidentally said, that's probably going to get deleted. But anyways, the point is, I think we're primed. That's all I'm really saying, is I think we're being primed for the possibility of a new story similar to Project the Opposite of the Color Yellow Laser Sky. But they don't need lasers. They'll just have drones, and then they'll have like an actor. They'll film it. They'll film one, and they'll say, "Yeah, this is definitely on the moon's surface. I mean, this is definitely in Arkansas. Look, it's an alien. It's a real alien mind controlling our CIA operative. Oh, look at that journalist is also being mind controlled. Oh, look at that. What are they saying? Oh, you need to give your government more money, power, and fame, and you need to give it more of your freedoms, and you need to give us more money, and you need to give us more control. The government needs to be bigger. We need to have one world government, one world empire, one world religion, one world everything, because otherwise, aliens." So I think that's what they're prepping us for, but I think people are smarter than they think. So eventually, I think what they're going to do is they're going to either kick it down the road to see if they can introduce Project the Opposite of the Color Yellow Laser Sky in like 2050. But I think they're wrapping it up now because they did something 4 years ago. Maybe they'll do something every 4 years now or every 8 years. What a quinkydink. It just so happens to be the American election cycles. Wow, what a quinkydink. The point being, that's what I think is potentially what's happening. Mind you, it sounds crazy until you actually think about the CIA and what they've actually done. They don't need lasers in the sky. They just need to convince enough people and the media to go with a story. It doesn't have to be, oh, the story is officially aliens. It might be, it's China. Is it trying to alien us with reverse UFO technology? It might be, oh, it's Iran. But they'll have some sort of story. And all of this footage of UFOs over the past 50 years will suddenly be such a blessing to them because it normalized whole generations to the concept of little gray men from outer space flying stupid shaped fucking things. So if you thought that was insightful and helpful and might be what it is, leave a comment below. And if you think I'm crazy and it's just drones from Iran or Afghanistan, I don't know, fuck, it make more sense to be China. Like that, I think the drones are actually real drones, and I think they're probably more or less just random manufactured in China drones bought by the United States government, flown over New Jersey and other places to make people think even more in aliens and UFOs, so that in 2025 and 2028, 2030, Agenda 20, whatever, whenever it happens, we'll be used to it. I think that's more or less what's happening. Although I think they'll either kick it down the road or cancel it if we start spreading this message. Don't trust the government. Don't trust the UFOs, and definitely don't trust the Greys, the kids. They're freaking up to something. So that's all for today. I hope you have a good season of Christmas and a nice time with clapping them cheeks. Let's get this. Let's get the truth out there. There's one more thing I wanted to add. This is the one thing I think is the most obvious flag of the bullshit of this whole thing, this whole phenomenon. There are more UFO shapes, sizes, and designs than there are shapes, shapes, designs, and styles, orientations, and other thingamajobs of penises. Like, seriously. There's more diversity in UFOs than possibly the human species. And the Greys never look the same, to a degree. So that should be your first flag as to, like, there's some bullshit going on. If you were an actual extraterrestrial species, right, you would have models of spaceships probably. And so there'd be some consistency, right? This model, that model, and that model. However, we don't necessarily see models so much. We see shapes and so many different ones. Now, drones are made in many different small sizes, and there's some big ones that can be flown now in China. And if you think that China can't power that thing for long ways over America, think again. China has invented the supposedly, might be propaganda, the nuclear battery. All right? I'm going to leave you with that. Nuclear battery. I think probably it doesn't even have to be China. It's just the government trying to normalize us to UFOs. Or it could be China. I think those are the two highest probabilities. It's China, not fucking Iran, with their nuclear fucking batteries, which are powering their drones, and they have 15 different designs. Why? That's the main thing that I'm like, this seems like it is on purpose. Why so many designs, though? Why so many styles? Are they holographic or illusionary? Are they spiritual? Because those make a little bit more sense when you think about designs. When you have a factory, yes, there are many different types of quadcopters, but they all look like quadcopters, right? Like when you have a factory, you have models, and the difference between cars is negligible. Trucks and cars is a big difference, but what we have up there is there's a truck, there's a car, there's a spaceship, there's a fucking dildo in the sky. There's so many different shapes of UFOs. Colors, something is wrong about that. It does not make physical sense. It's either illusion, spiritual phenomena, one of those two, or some kind of crazy ass normalization where they're like, just throw up the newest design up there to get people used to these. Mind you, I'm not sure of this 100%. I'm saying this is a hypothesis, but I just wanted to leave you with that right there. Let me know what you think. Hopefully this was not too long and windy. Follow the channel for more like this, and be human.